Hello, friends, and welcome to Talking with Famous People. I'm your host, Huesto Enrico. Huesto de Taquiendo de Famiese de Peopleo Place, sometimes referred to in the English lingua, or language, or tongue, if you will, as Talking with Famous People. En español, I am Huesto Enrico y este es Rachel de Domingo. Pero in English, I'm Eric and she's Rachel.
Hi.
And together we're having a very neutral INFJ day. Because that's what it means to be a real INFJ. When you're asked how you feel, the answer is normal.
I feel like a person.
If really pressed, the real answer is disenchanted by humanity. Is that a good answer? Well, it's the truth. Let's see here. No, I'm not discussing any functions with you, says email anthrax. Okay, you don't have to.
Yeah, definitely.
You just have to discuss your bodily functions with me. I want to hear about your pee and your poo, mostly.
That we can talk about for sure. And also, I wouldn't mind if I hear someone talk about shortening bread.
You know, we haven't fully exhausted the discussion of shortening bread.
No.
A song which Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys declared the greatest song ever written. Type your poo. Your poo is very much like an ENFJ. Really charismatic. Really selling people on systems of being that won't work and they don't actually need. I mean, no offense, ENFJs. I know you're not all doing that. But you know that Bill Clinton self-typed as ESFP? Well, you know what they say about self-typings? Their worth is about as much as the person typing themselves, which is nothing. Self-typers.
Okay.
You want to become worth nothing? Don't hire me to type you. You type yourself. That means you're worth nothing as a human being.
I'm so surprised. But
we poo our semi-dual? Is that true? What's my semi-dual? Is that
ESFP.
No,
I'm sorry.
ESTP?
ISTJ.
ISTJ. I poo ISTJs.
I poo ESFPs then.
Why did you pee in a bottle? Emailed Anthrax. Because if I pee in one do, then you can keep driving for your job forever. You pee in that bottle with you. Oh, pee in bottle, pee in bottle. Semi-dual is INFJ? No, I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
I don't think so, Shreds McGee.
No, it's ISTJ because my semi-dual is ESFP.
The McGee that you see looks like Shred's anatomy, boy. Woo woo! You just got burned with some aloe burns. Aloe needing burns everywhere.
You're gonna need some aloe for those burns.
I agree, Justin Bieber's an ESFP.
I don't know, guys.
What do you think
he'd
he
be
is?
a lot more on the internet if he was ESFP. As in, like, I think he would have a YouTube that he, like... I don't...
He might be ISFP.
Yeah. ISFP maybe, yeah.
Boy, there's this lady I typed earlier today who's been typed on another channel, but I don't know if that video is public or not.
I don't know.
She shared it with me, but anyway, she's an ENFP, and she got typed by that lady who used to be part of the coffee thing, the INFP, INTJ coffee thing, before the INTJ girl left. You know that lady? Meow meow?
Meow meow?
It's like, boobs or brains, she only got to pick one. It's pretty clear which one she picked, I guess you could say. Um, you think Justin Bieber is an ISTP. You're not willing to discuss why, but you really believe that's his type. Well, that's fine. I want you to believe heartily, earnestly, eagerly, thrustingly in the absence of any discussion.
Yeah, I think ISFP, possibly, because, like I said.
Have I still not smoked a cigarette since we
No,
got
you
on?
haven't.
How weird, huh?
It is.
ISTPs trigger you most.
Where are you now that I need you? Will we get a copyright for that?
What?
Me saying.
No.
Okay.
Probably not.
Good.
We do, we could always cut out the offensive portion.
I don't think that I don't think that Justin Bieber has resting bitch face. I think he's pretty expressive, especially when it comes to love.
Hey, guys, remember, today is International INFJ Day. Let's try to be respectful of that. Let's all try to have a neutral INFJ day, as this INFJ here pictured is clearly doing. This is International Sign Language for Neutral Day. Clearly an INFJ, this person. Mm-hmm. Further disillusionment with the world. Oh well. Fortunately, nothing really matters anyway. It's all just repetition of patterns repeated back to the beginning of time.
Thanks, Life's Chronic.
So, one of the reasons why it's International INFJ Day today is because my friend Corey came over and hung out for a few hours, and we had a pretty good time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed our time hanging out.
Me too. It was really nice getting to know him.
One of the things that was striking to me was the similarity between Rachel and Corey. If you ask an INFJ how they feel right now, and they're actually an INFJ, there's a very good chance they'll go, normal, neutral, good, fine, something like that.
Yeah. My reactions to things tend to be pretty neutral. Like, I like to know the whole picture before reacting to things. Like, even media. Like, I'll be pretty neutral until I watch several episodes of something before I decide.
What I mean by INFJs being neutral is this. The least neutral function is FI in terms of a deliberation function. So TI tries to position things neutrally as though you were a neutral third party. The least slanted knowledge function is NI, whereas SI biases in favor of one's own experience, recency bias, and also proximity bias, right, are both SI phenomena. NI tries to be neutral about the thing. If you look at TE and FE, TE is looking for specific advantages over alternatives in ways that maximize the outcomes that you want. FE is looking to see things be proportionate. That is to say, to the extent that it is embracing hierarchies, it wants to see people behave in ways that are proportionate with their place in the hierarchy. So again, there's a neutrality element to it. That is to say, it's not up to me to decide whether you're important or not. Your job is to act as important as you are. And then lastly, you might say that SE is, of all the physical functions, the most neutral in the sense that it's the least linked to any kind of meaning of all the functions. Well, what I see in Rachel and Corey are two INFJs who've taken the opposite angles on the status power thing. So status and power are linked to each other in that you're always going to be exercising power in the sense of control over your own experience via some kind of positioning yourself in terms of status, either as not a threat, not worth bothering with, and or not not standing out or drawing attention, or of sort of bullying your way through. Like, I expect I'm going to convey a lot of status and expect people to jump accordingly, and a lot of times people do. Well, I see Corey as an INFJ who's, because he's male, has approached the status question from a high status perspective. He's gonna display an affect of high status, and I think Rachel approached it from a low status perspective, probably because there's the circumstances required that of them to succeed. In both instances, they probably think the affectation is ultimately tiresome. They'd rather not have to spend a lot of energy affecting status or displaying to people. They'd rather there be a more subtextual conversation, and so they find the whole process of being a subject in the world that's subject to critique and or on display in some fashion for people to judge, to be laborious, regardless of whether they affect a sort of high status dominant affect or a lower status, I guess,
LOL.
invisibility thing. The thing is,
I'm in that video. I knew I was the low status.
The thing is, Rachel, my takeaway from it was not that you are low status. It's that this status thing is a strategy that neither you nor Corey particularly likes handling matters of status, affect, and such with a great deal of, but you do necessarily all the time, and so you're sort of always a little frustrated with yourself, whilst concurrently successfully managing one of the two affects. They're both good strategies, and in certain circumstances, everybody has both strategies in their repertoire, depending on the circumstances. If you put me in front of if you put me in a room of quantum scientists in a quantum physics lab where I'm totally out of my element and I'm clearly the least knowledgeable person there, I'm going to be much more generally deferential in my affects about things than if I'm in a group of people talking about typology, in which my affect's going to display a lot more authority. Let's talk about the beta introvert. There are two kinds of beta introverts, if you mean quadro-wise, which is ISTP and INFJ. It's worth talking about ISTP in describing, sort of drawing distinctions between them and INFJ, but I'm going to try to stay on topic today since it is International INFJ Day. I've declared it so. Mm-hmm. And I have such a great background here, right? How nice is that background? Doesn't it look arty and stuff? Okay. Because the one in your life has severe religious convictions? Well, look, the thing is, they aren't neutral on position statements. They're neutral emotionally. If you ask them how they're feeling emotionally, at any given time, they'll probably give you a similar answer to an STP or an NTP, which is normal, neutral. When I typed that ISTP girl Grace the other day, she was rather a strong advocate that in fact emotions had no physical sensations associated with them.
I'm coming, P.
Which I thought was very much.
Oh my god, wasn't even P.
Which is very much indicative of yeah. So let's talk a little bit about pride. I've been somewhat confused this month because apparently this month has been set aside for being proud of rainbows, as far as I can tell. All over the place, I'm seeing pictures of rainbows with the word pride on them, with no further clarifying information. I can only conclude that this must be Rainbow Pride Month. But my question, of course, naturally is, why are we humans being so arrogant, displaying so much hubris as to take credit and feel proud of God's invention, the rainbow? Because who invented the rainbow?
God.
God invented it.
Yeah.
Why? Because he had made it rain too much.
It was after the storm that Noah went through.
Yeah.
They say it.
And nothing says I'm sorry like a rainbow.
Right?
Nothing says my bad like a rainbow. So he probably was like, Moses. I mean, who was the one who rode on the ark? Noah. Noah, listen. We're still here in the Old Testament. So I'm really sorry about drowning all life on Earth except for you guys on the boat here. Thanks a lot for being my boat guy. I appreciate it. Someone had to do it. I didn't want to have to start this whole shit over, Listen, I really regret it. I went a little overboard. I'm sorry. So here's a rainbow. And I want you to think, whenever you see this rainbow, this is God's promise never to drown all life on Earth again. And also, by the way, when you get off the boat, when you get on the shore, what you're going to find, I've set aside for you in the desert, in a big curly Q building, your own harem. Yes, that's right. It's still the Old Testament. You're welcome to have a harem.
He got a harem?
Well, yeah, Old Testament.
I didn't know that.
Sure, he had many, many wives.
Noah had many wives?
Oh, yeah. He was known as the bewivened one.
Wow.
He had so many wives. He was like that Epstein character, except society fully embraced his ways. That's the Old Testament for you. Some of them were donkeys, they say. Some of whom were donkeys. My question is, why did Noah bother bringing 2 mosquitoes on board? We don't need mosquitoes. I don't like mosquitoes. He should have just left them to drown.
The wives, that's why?
He would have been buoy fed? Bewifed, oh. Bewifed, right. Bewife-ed. I once watched a harem anime. It looked like a real issue dealing with that many women. I've been turned off the harem idea ever since.
Email Interacts, it's really funny because, I watched the reversed. Well, yeah. But I watched the reversed. I watched the reversed with a girl with a lot of dudes, and
those ones are less realistic. The
They're
dudes
more
are all
girly.
eager to please the girl, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the ones with the dude, the girls are all whining at the dude to handle shit and do this and do that and pay attention to them.
It's not that different though. The girl's still whining oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do anything. Oh, thank you so much for me living in your home. And it's just, it's just the same thing. It's just the guys are like, oh, hey.
See, I like How Not to Summon a Demon Lord because in that one, the girls are trying to summon and enslave a demon lord, but because they're not aware that he has basically bounce back magic, he's got I am rubber, you are glue magic, which when somebody casts a spell on him, it I am rubbers, you are glues it. And so then they're enslaved. They've got a slave collar around his neck. And he's like, hey, I'm not trying to keep you guys as slaves. And they're like, well, I can't. There's no way to escape this magic. So they have to be his slave. And then a number of other chicks willingly become his slave, to choose to become his slave, even though he tells them not to. And pretty soon he's got a whole bevy of scantily clad, buxom, young females of varieties of animals mixed with them.
Isn't the one that was like, isn't this hentai or what?
Oh yeah, that one was that's How Not to Summon a Demon Lord. Yeah. That's the most hentai of the non-hentais. Yeah,
that definitely is hentai.
It's
okay,
not.
I don't know. I'm not saying
literally.
Definitely. I'm saying
it's as close as it can get without being.
You could take a clip from it.
It plays a lot with the plays a lot with the genre. So
it does. It really
does. Let me fix the
oh my
thing
gosh.
here.
I was like, I'm gonna go see. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna see anime boobs or whatever.
Anime boobs. Anime boobs. Hooray, hooray for anime boobs.
Seriously, hooray, hooray for anime boobs.
Yeah, I don't want.
It takes the load off of mine. Seriously.
Fine, I'll give one. J.K. Rowling is often typed INFJ, writer of the Harry Potter books. I agree with that typing, never based on her work. Not based on anything else, but just based on her work.
It's funny. I do too because I didn't at first because I wasn't a Harry Potter fan. I am now of the movies. I haven't read the books and I don't plan to, but I know about her life and how she got she wrote Harry Potter in the back of her car during her divorce, and I've been through those kind of trial and errors, and I definitely can see how being in the state that she was, basically homeless, and I could see how she could be so inspired to write something as creative as Harry Potter. So I think she's an INFJ. I think she's a good example of an INFJ too, because she's gone through the highs and lows that a lot of INFJs go through, and I think that's why Jesus is known as an INFJ. But I don't really know if he is, man.
Certainly, it's the case that J.K. Rowling successfully incorporated a bunch of archetypal stuff into the books. It's it's like everything from the names of the characters to the words they use in the magic spells to the names of the houses. They all have NI links. None of them are just pure NE. The NE is always in a clearly linked deviation from an existing NI thing. Please give your opinion of the house that Sorter Hat would place you in within the Harry Potter world. Probably they'd put me in Hufflepuff, I would guess.
Yeah. Or Ravenclaw.
See, Ravenclaw sounds a little serious. Hufflepuff sounds like my kind of malarkey,
I mean, they had the happiest. They were the happy people. I think I tested once as Hufflepuff, and the other time it's Ravenclaw. So.
I mean, look, the way I perceive the houses is this: it's basically your Gryffindors are your goody two shoes. Your Ravenclaws are good guy, tough guys. Your Slytherins are your bad guy, and or bad way good guys, and your Hufflepuffs are your what? Yeah, we're pulling bong rips. we'll see y'all later. You guys got a war or something? Okay, cool. Yeah, hit us up when you get back. If you're still alive. Alright, see you later. You know?
Yeah.
That's my cup of tea right there.
That's my cup of tea too.
Oh, the Ravenclaw equal the nerds? Okay. The sort of battle nerds though, right?
Yeah, they're like...
Because think of the name, Ravenclaw.
She said, J.K. Rowling said that if she were to rewrite, or at one point when she was writing Harry Potter, she put Hermione in Ravenclaw because Hermione, uses her brain a lot.
So why did you end up putting it back in Gryffindor? She felt it was too necessary to have them be on the same team?
Yeah.
In order to build,
I think...
reader kinship with Gryffindor?
Mm-hmm. I think instead of spreading it out, I think she thought it was easier just to have them all on the same team.
I've had it speculated before, heard somebody speculate before, not me, that, I probably have, in the sense, have also speculated, echoing what he said, but, that Jesus was an ENTP. It kind of makes sense.
He was known for telling stories.
Well, the thing is, he's not really preaching a lot of illogical shit, right? Like, he's giving fairly, I guess you'd say, binary commands, kind of, or instructions.
That's true.
He's demonstrating humility by washing someone's feet.
No, but then and then the humility comes back to him, right? Because Mary Magdalene washed his feet.
I'm not an expert on Bible stuff.
Oh, me neither. The stuff that I do know is like, basic, really basic. I'm not good at the Bible, let me tell ya.
But it's like normally people who sort of reject the norms of the world are also, sort of wildly idealistic in ways that don't match up with their own behavior. So in the consistency of his behavior and what he's saying, I would say he seems more like an ENTP than say like an ENFP. And his stubbornness about the correctness of his ways in the face of opposition seems like more like, well, it could be either, ENTP, ENFP. Probably the ENTP, like, until the last second, Socrates was sure he wasn't going to actually have to drink that hemlock. He was sure he was going to get out of that shit some way. He had no intention of going down like that. Yeah. He was shocked when it actually happened. Jesus seems to kind of maybe acquiesce to his fate a little like maybe an ENTP would I don't know what you do. Once you're caught, I guess you're stuck in your SC spot. The reason it's like, and who would be most tortured by being crucified? ENTP, 4th slot SI, I think. Maybe ENFP. Everyone would hate
honestly, and I think that from what I've noticed of ENTPs in my life, they have a very tough inside. Like, bones and like heart and lungs and guts and stuff. Like, they're able to kind of like abuse certain drugs even and sustain it for a long period of time.
Abuse my drugs.
Yeah, where I think that INFJ wouldn't be able to sustain that pain. That pain of having those nails in the hands and the feet. You know what I mean? So wait, Oliver Linehand, what? Oh. Wait. Did J.K. Rowling really get cancel culture? And if so, why?
There's no transgender lesbians in her books. I've decided to change my pronouns, but not my gender. Be more precise, I'd like to change the pronouns you use, but not the pronouns I use, nor my gender. So I'd like you to say they, she, or it, but not he, referencing me. Nothing will change for me. I'm still going to refer to myself as I, and my named gender, male, will remain the same.
What's a turf? Life's in the chronic?
It's like a Nerf ball, but with more topical ointment on it.
Yeah, it made me think of that too. Oh, she went anti-woke?
Uh-oh. Well, good thing I started out that way. The thing is, I'm more woke than any of the woke people. I'm post-woke. So, for anybody who's still stuck in woke town, they can suck on my woke dick in the most aggressively non-judgmental way.
I didn't know that. I did read that, but it didn't stick with me.
Trans exclusionary radical feminist? What the fuck does that mean? Just like
I think
epically stupid. Those kind of words are so like you should get over them when you're 15. When you're 15 and 14, fancy words like that linked to ideas are attractive still for a brief moment or two until you realize how it's just yeah. What's exclusionary? Exclusionary mean like there? I agree with that typing of Carl Jung. I think Carl Jung's an INFJ for sure. I'm quite confident of it. Again, I didn't see anything in the interview of him that I've watched that contradicts it, but the main reason I think he's an INFJ is because of his work. It stinks of INFJ. No. Of course it's not INTP. Do you think an INTP would make so metaphorical a treatise on psychology? And instead of describing things in any kind of modelable or TI deductible way, just everything be linked to archetypes that just are and yeah. It's like, no way. No way an INTP would do that. Jungian cognitive functions are straight up NI genius, which is to say, it's like I never could have come up with that shit. It's sort of out of nowhere. I mean, you might say, "Oh, he drew inspiration from here and here and here," but you're kind of kidding yourself. It's a pretty revolutionary idea, but it doesn't withstand much TI scrutiny because it's an NI thing, you know. I mean, yes, INTPs do have demonstrative NI, but that means it's secondarily to, or sometimes to bolster what's fundamentally an extrovertedly intuitive approach with TI. It's not like it replaced the TI entirely with the demonstrative NI. That's just silly. And this four-dimensionality thing is a silly notion. That's not how things work.
I think cancel culture is very on trend right now. I don't know why. I really don't know why. It's like
people are offended by it.
Has become so humorless. It's so strange.
But the thing is, people, it's not like the reason cancel culture is trending because it's really that popular. It's because people are either appalled by it or they have this excitement of the sort that goes along with mobs looting.
Yeah, man.
And so it's like there's an excitement when the lynch mob gathers, right? But it also, now that it's named, lynch mob mentality is another name for cancel culture. Lynch mob mentality is not nearly as attractive a name, is it? If I say, "Oh, I'm into lynch mob mentality," people aren't going to be very happy about that. But the fact is, that's what cancel culture is. So, because that's what it is, it will at some point get described as such, and that term will get adopted by people who want to shit on those who want to do that, and it'll cease to be socially gratifying. You know?
Yeah.
Just because he put a lot of work into something has nothing to do with whether it's TI or NI. I put a lot of work into digging a hole. It doesn't make it my intuitive masterpiece.
Oh my god.
So what are they in favor of then? They're just in favor of passing judgment on people with reprehensible perspectives that they voice, presumably. Or so if like, remember that lady used to be a famous chef on TV, and she did some racist shit. She's like a Southern chef. Paula Deen, yeah, that's the lady. Well, you never see her on TV anymore.
No.
The funny thing is, Otik, for all my talk of digging holes, I so very rarely dig a hole. When, like the last time I dug a hole, I don't even know the past tense of the verb to dig. I mistook it for dag now.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably the last time I seriously dug a hole was when I was living in Laverne.
No, well, yeah, not a serious hole. We dug a hole for the plant when we were getting the
Okay.
plant out.
Yeah, that counts though. That counts as a hole. So I did dig a hole when I planted the Christmas tree over there.
Also the weed plant.
Sure, I dug a hole for the weed plant. I'm not a great hole digger. What I find is I get tired quickly, and also my hands start saying ow, 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 unless I'm wearing gloves, which I don't usually remember to put on, because I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal to dig a hole. Until you start digging the hole. Then you're like, ay. Digging a hole? What am I doing here? Am I crazy? You turn into an old stereotypical Jewish man at a deli, sitting there kvetzing about something. What types of superheroes like Batman or Superman? Which superheroes like Batman or Superman?
Or Spider-Man.
Super fanboy. Who really is, his superpower is adoring Batman and Superman so much?
Yeah, today is hot. Well, I don't know where you are, Ryanus, but...
I agree with you, Helmy Shanuda. I agree. I'm hot-blooded, 103. I got a fever, make me go pee.
Would that make the Joker ESFP?
I think the Joker's ESFP, yeah. I don't think the Joker's ENTP, as sometimes people say.
Because really, if you think about the relationships that Batman has, one that never quits is the Joker. You just can't quit him.
I think because Young was a INFJ, these observations had been collecting his whole life, about human beings, regardless of whether he's a psychiatrist, psychologist, or whatever. Well, Feywind, if you wanted to say which two of her four valued functions she believes she uses most, well, let's see what she says. Of the two functions, NI and FE, and TI and SE, which two do you feel like you use the most?
FE.
And that's one of them.
And what was the other one?
NITISE.
Oh, definitely TI. I'm very selfish with things being fair.
So there you go. Effie and T are the two she feels she uses the most.
Definitely. T-E. And F-I is something that I admire in other people. Like, the fact that I just respect them a lot because I'm fucking terrible with everyday life happenings because I don't clearly know what's important to me.
No, Fate Wind, thank you. Thank you, because I did not expect her to give that answer. It was pretty clear what her answer was. The two functions that she identifies with most as a subject in the world, at least somebody who does things, are FE and TI. So I guess, so to what extent do you identify with NI? Or to what extent do you not identify with NI?
I identify with it completely, but I've suppressed it a lot since I was little. So I don't know how to use it as well as I do, say, my tool function. I think I've used a lot of SE too in my life to show people that, like, hey, look, I've gotten this done. I can function in society, but really that was me pushing it. Like, it was pushing it.
No, it's okay. You don't have to wait. You're on your game today, Fate Wind. You are hitting on all cylinders. My answer to that is any NFE. It's like, if you ask me which do I identify most with, or which of my two functions do I believe I use the most, I would say any NFE. Because although because it feels this way to me, in that TI just seems like an I to dot and a T to cross, whereas FE feels like the thing that indicates I've completed the whole Peking duck.
Yeah. Like, I think I would be, if I, in a different environment, say I had an ESTP dad, I think I would have been more, like, intuitive. I think my intuition in terms of relations, would have been respected more. But, like, instead it was, like, held against me, almost. Yeah, definitely.
So,
yeah.
I mean...
Oh, yeah, what I meant to say was, what I wanted to finish was that, ever since I was younger, as soon as I had a baby sister, it was, oh, she's getting something, I'm getting something. Mm-hmm. There was no, like, obviously if it was her birthday, okay, so if it was her birthday, or it was my sister or brother's birthday, that was their day, right? I hated, there's a video of me being woken up on my sister's birthday, and I'm sitting miserably in the corner of the couch watching her open presents, and I'm not happy because even then sleep was very important to me. And like, to me, that was, like, unfair. I was like, this is so unfair. Like, this is my sister's birthday. I don't care. But if it was Christmas, I made sure that she and I and my parents made sure, because I would freak out if one of us got more presents than the other. Christmas was a day for both of us, all three of us, where we shared. But, like, I was pretty on top of my parents for being fair about things, because I would throw a fit. And my parents hated me whining. They hated me more than anything. They hated me whining. like, Rachel, you're whining again.
So here's the thing, Fate Wind. You probably, I'd be curious as to what it is that you're observing in me that you identify as SI. Because if you're saying, well, a lot of the stuff you're talking about now, Eric, when you're talking about cognitive functions, if you're answering a question, your answer is something you've already thought through all the way and have a determined status on. It doesn't change, and so you're going to give the same answer every time. In that regard, you'd be right that when I'm talking about cognitive functions, I'm linking back to ideas that I've articulated before, probably, as I am now. But I've never faced this exact question before. And the reality is, or I never faced it from this particular angle before. I've never said these exact words before, or anything quite exactly like this combination of angles. And that's kind of the nature of extroverted intuition. It doesn't necessarily need to deviate by a huge margin to sustain fairly substantial impacts. Certain things in life and in reality are resistant to impacting, and certain things are very susceptible to impacting. It has to do with sort of the tuning of the equilibrium. So if you want to impact a recorded song by making it have more bass, you have to boost or cut the bass by a larger amount to have an audible difference than you do boost or cut the treble. If you're trying to make a difference at 3K or something, you just have to drop it maybe half a dB or something in a very narrow frequency range to make a big difference. Whereas you won't really hear that in the bass end or something. So certain things are like that in life, right? Extroverted intuition is the function that's particularly deft at managing those kind of dynamics. And it's why I'm able to provide such a complete, satisfying, and pretty definitive response to what you're saying here on the fly, though I've never addressed it directly like this before. Now, remember, it began with a question, which is what exactly it is that you're observing in me that you see as SI? Do you see like this as kind of being SI OCD, needing to always have some sort of SI stimulation? Are you seeing in me a responsiveness to hunger, or like where are you, based on what you see of me, what are you hearing and witnessing that you are calling SI? Because as you asked the question, it was, which one do you think you use the most? So if you think I use SI the most, I would like to know what it is that you're identifying as SI. Because I think what you're getting at here is kind of an interesting point, which is one of the consequences in not directing much conscious attention to SI, which is a conscious function for me, is that I tend to direct a fair amount of unconscious attention to it. Bouncing my knee, smoking, going like this, right? These are mostly unconscious SI activities for me. And it's true that those are SI linked displays, but they're not displays really of conscious SI attention. To the contrary, they're displays of a kind of unconscious SI noise that fills in a gap that I think SI attention should fill. I don't. In other words, I don't pay attention experientially a lot of times while I'm smoking a cigarette, such that if I'm doing something and smoking a cigarette especially, I will let a large amount of it burn down in my fingers without noticing it, right? In that instance, smoking is exemplified as an unconscious SI behavior. You're accustomed, habituated to holding a cigarette, having one in your hand. This is an unconscious SI habit, holding it in my hand. This is an indication of poor SI, not of strong SI. And it's not an indication of me paying conscious attention via the function, but rather of kind of SI noise in the absence of conscious attention. Well, Fate Wind, the thing is, remember that I'm not the one verifying my ideas repeatedly. You're the one coming in to verify. I'm providing you answers that you are finding unsatisfactory. Don't mistake our respective roles. You know, and your frame of reference there that I'm verifying my own ideas repeatedly displays a kind of a bias that I tend to distrust, I guess. I could be mistaken about that, but it's so wrong in its frame of reference about me that I don't know what to do about it. If you're going for easy to anger, I mean, I'm easy enough to anger, but it doesn't require nothing to do with SI, really. I mean, no, it's definitely not. Irritation does not necessarily link to SI at all. So ENTJs, ENFJs, they can get irritated. ISFJs can get irritated. ISTJs can get irritated. Anybody can get irritated. It doesn't link to SI. One common form of irritation is the experience of being hungry or thirsty or sleepy or things like that. That can make you grumpy, sure. That's one way people get irritated. Another way people get irritated is when they have a consistent failure of the day to meet their expectations. So, as always, it links back to what I call the prime directive, which is that we want our map and territory to match. And we feel sort of compelling need to bring those two together in one way or another. Let's see. Do you think that we should follow the truth more than to follow our values, and why? I mean, I think that the better way to phrase the same question is this. Should we parse things such that we determine what's legitimate according to what withstands universal scrutiny, or should we determine what's legitimate according to what's most significant to us and ourselves and our authentic person, right? And the answer is, it depends on the situation, not really on the person. You might say, well, it depends on the person. For the FI person, they should blah, 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 blah. They should use their emotions to judge things. For the TI person, they should use their logic. That's not exactly true. The reality is it's contextually specific. So if I'm talking about political matters or things like cognitive functions, which I at least claim to be a matter that ultimately is free of interpretation mostly, if understood correctly, that we will eventually find a way to link these things so conclusively simply by potentially looking at the pile of data that I'm increasingly creating in terms of asking similar questions to a succession of people to demonstrate these skill sets fall into categories. Hopefully the ENFP I typed earlier will let me publish, because once again we get this absolutely textbook vision of polar TI. And it's something that's very satisfying for me as a typologist when I'm guessing she's the ENFP. I'm predicting in my head, okay, let's see the TI polar. I ask the questions and boom, it's textbook. It's great to be able to have such concrete skills linkages like that, and to know that we're way ahead here of any place else in terms of meaningfully proving shit, you know? The thing is, I have a history of making a series of really poor choices in terms of my relationships prior to this one. I had a long series of very rocky relationships in which I felt like I was continually being hounded by the other person to be a different person than who I was. That I was being complained about, that it was always, the other person was always like, do I really want to be with this guy or not? He's sure is a pain in the ass. I've been told by every woman prior to Rachel that I've ever been with that I'm extremely difficult to be with. And so what does this tell you? It tells you I did a very poor job of paying attention to my own feelings when I was considering who to date, right? The last thing on my consideration was whether or not the person made me feel good. It was like, that doesn't matter. I'll take care of that myself. Back to INFJs. How often have you believed Rachel to be really mad, or how often or easily can she get mad or notably irritated? Um, I don't see her very mad, but I'm mad very often. But that is because uh, I'm not trying to force anything on her. I'm not trying to control her.
Yeah, no.
I'm not trying to change her, correct her, fix her, make her do or be anything that she doesn't want to do or be. However, it doesn't take much of that for you to see her very middle fingery side.
Yeah.
She doesn't like people trying to control her, and she doesn't like wrongness being forced on her. She doesn't like unfairness. She's on the lookout for it because it's like the only kind of universal thing that she could always rely on. At least I can make an appeal to this universal, and even if it's not an NI thing, people will understand it.
Mm-hmm.
How often or easily she can get mad or notably irritated?
I think irritated is I associate it with like frustration, and that doesn't happen too often. It happens when my expectations don't reach like reality in terms of like whether I'm getting a package or something. Like it's so minor. But that's when I'll get like frustrated when I set like expectations of how like certain TE things should go maybe. But I don't really honestly I don't really get mad, and I don't really get very upset. However, I do think that being mad is a part of the human experience, and it's important to acknowledge when a person is feeling mad. And it's also really important for me to like I don't know, just my body will like retain it if I don't express my emotions in some sort of way. If something doesn't tap into my emotions, they'll just sit in my body, and I'll have like hip aches or like a hunch more, and it just it builds up in my body. So I just think that being mad is something that everyone experiences. However, I do not experience it very often. I try to avoid things that make me mad.
I'll tell you, the last thing that she got particularly frustrated or sort of flustered by was the whole dress thing for the wedding,
yeah.
and the specifics of that were as follows. She needed to know, first of all, whether we were invited to the wedding, and we both need to know this for planning purposes. But second of all, she needed to know what the wedding party was going to wear so that she didn't look like a bridesmaid. She wanted to know the color scheme. She was having trouble getting information on this. What I argued is that lack of noticeable upsetness is a trait of role SI, or the lack of strong and valued SI. The lack of upsetness about what?
Fussiness I can see. Fussiness I can see. Like my sister's ISFJ, and she's very fussy. Like my parents always knew when my sister was upset. Again, she doesn't get upset very often either, I don't think, but she's definitely more fussy. And she's always been that way. Ever since she was a baby, she was a fussy baby. She was fussy, but
I think fussiness, as it's understood, which is sort of emotional discomfort and physical discomfort, is an SI thing that everyone's subject to depending on the level of SI discomfort, right?
yeah, I agree with you.
I'm also in the same school there with you that anger is an emotion that has a place, that most people can't use it well, but that some people use it just fine. I'm in the middle. Sometimes I use it well, and sometimes I don't. There are some things where it's appropriate to get angry, just to sort of establish boundaries, nothing else. Rachel, when you first encountered MBTI stuff, did you take to it right away, or did you kind of think it was dumb? My INFJ friend just brushes it off as pseudoscience and doesn't look into cognitive functions.
No, I thought it was fun, actually. I tested wrong, though, for many years. I'd say for like 8 years I was testing myself wrong because I was self-evaluating. And I'm an INFJ Enneagram 7. So actually I was pretty interested in MBTI because I took the test a lot, and as I got older I started to like feel more myself, I guess, come into my own coming of age sort of stuff. And suddenly like things weren't fitting. I was taking the test and getting the results, and they weren't fitting. So I always believed in it, but once I started doing more like reading off of like 16 personalities, the less I felt like the type that I was taking, that I was getting during the quizzes and the tests.
Well, interesting, Fate Win, what you say here about the most angry types are ESTJs and ISTJs. I don't find ISTJs to be particularly easily angered, but maybe that's my experience with the ISTJs I've encountered. I agree with you that the least emotionally volatile in their displays are the two NI-DOMs. However, if you were going to say that, then are you also saying that you think that 7th slot SI is stronger, quote unquote, than 8th slot SI? Because that would be implied by what you said there, right? Because you're saying that it's the INFJs and INTJs who are the least angered, and it's because their SI placement is the weakest SI. Well, then you would be saying that 8's weaker than 7, which is certainly not. I mean, you're welcome to say that. That's not an shockingly unbelievable claim or something. I've argued that 7th is absolute value and 8th is instrumental. I've also argued that 8th is less conscious than 7th. INTJs don't see the point of displaying anger. They're actually experiencing a lot more anger than people who are displaying a lot more anger. I display the same amount of anger that INTJs feel on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Except I don't really feel it unless if I do feel it, I'm displaying it. But they're feeling it even when they're not displaying it a lot of times. The one statement that INTJs identify with more than any others is, everyone's doing everything wrong, and though I show nothing, quietly, I rage. Mm-hmm. They all go, that's me!
Yeah.
It's quite endearing, actually. Hi, Ike Ogiamanian.
Hey.
Ogiamian. I added a syllable in there.
You're welcome, Ryan Essay.
An unneeded and unwanted syllable. I gotta check my email now to see if this ENFP is gonna let me, if she's responded yet, if she's gonna let me publish. INFJ Forever, you blow up balloons? Do you blow up balloons? I blow up balloons too.
Well, when I do get angry, that's like when I'm running low on every fucking cognitive function. When I use my FE,
I'm not exactly very blow-uppy. I'm more like firecrackery.
yeah.
Lots of little loud noises without really any big explosion.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, I'll really like freak out. The last time that happened was towards the beginning of COVID at 7-Eleven. Prior to that, it was with Kimberly. It happened fairly regularly because that woman had the ability to make me so angry. How angry were you, Eric? So angry that I'd swing like a broom handle to hit something, like to hit a couch or to hit a railing or whatever, just to drive home my point.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which is not Eric at all. I told her early on in our relationship, I have never met anybody who makes me as angry as you make me. Why that wouldn't be a red flag to myself that you shouldn't be with this woman. These balloons, unfortunately, my take on them is usually I'm not paying enough attention to the impact of it to really appreciate it. I need to sort of, it's an SI thing for me. I need to stop thinking, stop ideating, and just listen to the high, so to speak. Looks like I might be trying DMT relatively soon.
What happened?
Oh, I just,
I
don't know. Stop. Yeah, there. Looks like I might be trying DMT relatively soon. I'm looking forward to it, I guess you'd say.
I think I'm gonna try too, and
Yeah, I
I'm
think
looking
you're both
forward
gonna
to
try
as
it.
well. Like a 10-minute thing, a 10-minute trip sounds great. Are you kidding me? Like that's just enough. Because that's what I've always been afraid with mushrooms is that I would take too much and then I would get like paranoid and then I'd be stuck in this state for a while. But I can't say because I've never taken them.
Well, so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, it is.
And I never really thought that I'd probably come across it, But you might just meet your book characters. Well, that's what I was talking with homie about, but was, there's so many magical things, that go along with people's descriptions of DMT. You looked at your birth chart in astrology, and I found that the planet Mars is very strong in your character. Mars is the god of war in Roman mythology. In mine, you say Mars is strong in my birth chart? Help me, Shanuda?
In what way do you mean?
I have never heard that before. I've heard various things being my moon's in my spoon and my poon in my womb, but I'm not sure about the Mars thing.
I've seen. I don't know about Mars. Well,
tell us more about my Mars. Tell me which planet's moon my Mars is humping right now. I want to know. Tell me which planet's moon is the Kanye West to my moon's. Who's that new chick that Kanye West is getting on?
Irina Shankov.
Sounds like such a Russian mobster name.
Your Mars is in the first house. Yes, it is. Have you ever seen my birth chart? I would love for you.
My Mars is in the first house. Yeah. What's it doing up there?
It's conjunct the sun.
Is it waging war on the furniture? Is that what it's doing inside the house? This is for me. You make your own.
Oh, it's fine. I didn't know what was going on. Question, Jeremiah Fix, but are there ever any males on Venus? Yeah, see? It's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. I am so in awe of your lungs. Like, really. I'm in awe of his lungs. That's cool. Tell me. I believe I have
Hold me close, you tiny dancer.
what's going on? I'm confused. So Helmi send
That's an
Yuda.
excellent clip right there. Me bursting into Tiny Dancer. Pause. What's going on? Just right there. That's an excellent clip.
Apparently we have good compatibility because like my Mars and or his Mars and I don't remember. I don't know. But it's good.
Well, I think it's important to distinguish in any instance when you're talking about any vector to make a determination about whether you're discussing a distinction that represents an attentional manner, whether it represents a behavioral correlate or some sort of other affect correlate, whether it represents a self-reporting correlate of a non-behavioral aspect, or something else. If you're not making those distinctions, then you don't know why you're drawing the dichotomies in the first place, right? So, in other words, to draw a dichotomy meaningfully is to contribute to a taxonomy of something. And if you want to adequately taxonomy something, there needs to be, I guess, a frame of reference through which the taxonomy can be understood. The problem with the Renan dichotomies is that they don't comprise. In debate, if somebody wants to run a critique, for example, they have to run a shell, which says you've got to include these components in the argument, or else you're not really doing a full critique. You have to provide an alternative. You have to provide an instance where there's a standard that's violated. So in other words, your opponents have said something that violates some sort of standard that you're going to critique that violation as a voter and say you should vote against them in this round because of this thing unrelated to the actual debate topic. It's more important, okay? So you have to do all the parts of the shell or you got no chance of your critique. So for example, topicality is a theory critique. If you say you should vote for me because his AF wasn't topical, then you're saying that you're making theory arguments about what his job is in debate. There was a round that was an out round. My kid was an 8th grader. This is 2 years ago. He was in novice LD. He was competing against 9th graders from what's it called? Harvard Westlake, which is probably the most respected and expensive private school in Los Angeles, greater Los Angeles area. And Harvard Westlake guy ran a totally non-topical AF. In fact, what they did is they ran their neg counterplan as an AF without even bothering to make it topical. My kid said it wasn't topical, but I had not yet taught him how to run a proper topicality shell. He didn't include the shell, and as a consequence, it didn't matter how much he said it wasn't topical, since he didn't say, here's the standard, here's the violation, here's why it's a voter, and read cards explaining why it needs to be the voter. Then, as a consequence, the judges couldn't vote for it, right? And there are underlying mechanical integrity reasons as to why it has to be that way rather than some other way. So, argumentation. Well, I mean, when the point is, this is something that people don't quite understand, and it's very frustrating to me as somebody who does understand. That at the very top level, all the debate coaches and best debaters, they understand what's a complete taxonomy of argumentation, and they understand what kinds of support check boxes need to be checked off in order for a given kind of argumentation to be able to even be sustained structurally, right? So when people make a bunch of arguments without any concept of the greater whole of argumentation and how it all fits together to meaningfully conscribe and provide human discourse such that it can meaningfully make distinct status determinations about points in dispute. Since it is that, it's unfortunate that the people who critique debate itself don't understand that that's a debate critique. And they have no idea how to do it right. So it's like people come in and they want to critique debate itself or argumentation or black and white thinking or some other thing that they think is some sort of novel assault on the institution of rhetoric. It's all been argued before. There are no novel arguments. There are only novel incarnations of existing kinds of arguments. And if you don't understand the totality of argumentation, how it all fits together, and what comprises substantiation, and why all the theory arguments are the way they are, then you're not going to be able to successfully put together a model of something. It's just how it is. Not like this, not this kind of thing.
Thanks, INFJ Forever. I've learned from Eric a lot of stuff. Because I was first typed correctly by Eric, so,
Those two short planks could be quite thin, you know, INFJ Forever.
yeah.
And don't let my fancy talk intimidate you.
Don't.
It's just there so that I can display smart rather than actually be smart. That's the important thing.
I only know stuff from my experience, so.
Oh, Rachel, you silly goose. I want to welcome all the INFJs who may have shown up here in attendance, since it is, in fact, International INFJ Day, for which the international saying is, have a neutral INFJ Day. And it's not because INFJs are neutral about any given point in question. They may have a strong position about it. It's because if you ask them emotionally how they feel right now, they'll go, neutral, normal.
My standby go-to is good.
Now,
Just because I don't.
Now but that's assuming you're not asking them like when I do a typing interview, right? I'm asking them various questions that are skills things. Then all of a sudden I catch them by surprise. They say, "How are you feeling emotionally right now?" Right now, and then, which is not how people normally say, "How are you doing?" or whatever. People don't come up to you and go, "How are you feeling emotionally right now?"
Yeah, no.
That's a very precise question. And in the context of an interview, they go, normal, neutral. That's a textbook INFJ answer to that question in an interview context.
You know, it's interesting you say that, Brockita, because Eric believes that Franklin Delano Roosevelt was an INFJ, and he was president for the longest. He was like president for like what, eight
He had 4 terms.
Yeah, 4 terms. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't want to get into politics because it's so black and white right now. Like, there's no gray, and it's not. That's not how our government is run. There's varying things and whatever. Our government has checks and balances.
Yes, Rachel's an INFJ. And also, yes, we get a fair amount of pushback about that point from people coming in. And I don't think it's specific to Rachel, really, as it is specific to the INFJ type. Anybody who calls themselves INFJ will get pushback. But probably Rachel gets less pushback than most because, well, the thing is, it's really hard to understand introverted sensing in a meaningful way, and also think that Rachel is an introverted sensor. She's just not.
It makes me feel inadequate. My SI makes me feel real inadequate. I look at my sister made this pasta dish the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god, I want that recipe! Like, it looks so good." And I was like, I was like, "God damn it! Like, if I was only that way. Like, that could be, like, so helpful. But...
So when's my TE come, Fate Wind? According to that understanding of things you were saying. If in fact the case is the INFJ FI will come later, not before FE, which is reflected by the environment. FE is not reflected by the environment. FE assumes the environment is responsive, reactive. So, in other words, to engage with somebody's extroverted feeling is to assume that you can, to some extent, manage their perception. The quintessential example of an FE statement is, I hope you didn't think I meant meow.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what? Seeing Corey today, I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know how you always say that there's like what, elite in the Beta Quadra? What is it? That they're elite?
Oh, they're elitist, or,
Yeah,
or what do you call aristocrat?
Yeah, I felt that.
Rachel's sister's an ISFJ. That's what she's comparing against here. Just to clarify,
Yeah,
it's not.
sorry
Her sister is not an INFJ with more SI. Her sister is an ISFJ.
She's an ISFJ. Yeah, she loves to cook. She's been cooking since she was like 8 years old. And like that's a sore spot for me because like I'm like not bad. I don't know. Like it's just like not priority to me. And then it like I feel bad because I feel like I should be more SI for Eric and
FE is not selfless. Okay, just because your attention is on others' perceptions, it doesn't mean you're selfless. It's incorrect to say that. Like paying attention to you is not the same thing as caring about you. The ISFJ also is not nearly as selfless as they might seem to be. They tend to be FE positive by giving what they have to give in terms of attention, and that is mostly, like cooking and
setting up her nest. She's been
nesting and stuff,
taking care of her dog. She's big. She's always loved animals. I think in general, ISFJs are pretty good with animals.
Okay, so here's why the question is a little bit more complicated than that, Fate Wind. Hey, look at me. Watch what I'm doing. I am concurrently paying attention to you. I'm specifically paying attention to how you're not watching me, Mom. You're not paying attention to me. Right? So in that instance, I'm displaying both the fact that I'm paying attention to where your attention is and what you're perceiving right now, and I'm still being selfish about it, right? I want your attention on me. I want to control your attention. You pay attention to me. Look at this trick I'm doing on my bike. It's more FI. The point is, it's trying to control the other person's attention, right? We're in agreement about that. It's trying to control the other person's attention, and it's paying attention to the other person's attention. It's not paying attention to my feelings. It's paying attention to what the other person's looking at, right?
Hi, baby.
I'll tell you this about FI. My own experience of it is nothing makes me quite so silent as FI. Okay, but SE value in FI. So, but why does the person care that Mom's watching then? What's the FI part? FI is I really love doing this. Right? I really love skateboarding so much with SE that I sneak out and that commercial where the girl climbs out of her window and shoots baskets in the middle of the night because she wants to get better so bad. That's SEFI, right? She's not doing it only when people are watching. She's not focused on whether she's getting credit from other people for practicing, she's practicing in hiding because she really cares about getting better. That's SEFI, right? I mean, that's a pretty clear distinction. We can agree on that. Right, FE is a misleading name, and the thing is, if you are coming in here, and I don't blame people for doing this, but if you're coming in here, with believing you've got a good understanding of cognitive functions because you've studied a lot of stuff that's not what I'm saying, your head has been filled with a lot of nonsense. There's so much misinformation out there. It's really difficult to reliably source what you think about it any place but here, frankly. Hi, Heidi Song. You're an ENFP. I die to see how you guys' brains work, ENTP and INFJ. Well, you can see it just about every day here on Talking with Famous People, where we laugh, love, learn, and live together in a delightful confluence of intuition, both extroverted and introverted.
Yeah.
And sharing our intuitive insights and wonderful feelings with you, our beloved viewing audience. We're so glad to have you. I am so glad to have you. Oh my gosh, everybody, it's Heidi.
Thanks, Heidi.
Glad to hear it, Heidi. I appreciate that loyalty. Do the INFJs here relate to the phrases flood of never-ending images that you are not in control of?
No. I mean, like, I do that literally. Like, when, to distract myself when I feel anxiety, I will go down a rabbit hole of, like, researching, like, sometimes clothes, sometimes occult stuff, sometimes something that I'll read, but mostly I'll cycle through the same, like, 4 apps and stuff.
I have some, what I call, SI fatalism spank bank topics that I go to. I'll periodically return to the topic of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The topic in general of nuclear weapons development, and in particular of like the biggest nuclear tests ever done and the biggest bombs ever made and stuff. Like the Soviet Union had the largest above ground nuclear test ever in history, and it was massive. It was 70 megatons or something like that. Kilotons, whichever one's bigger. The one it's like, it blew out windows in Finland, even though it was all the way across in Siberia or something. It went off. Eric, do you think the question about seeing yourself as the center of a circle of Miyat versus more positioned on the line with the past behind you and the future ahead is a good NI versus SI question? Tsar Bomba. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That one. That is a question about which I have not yet reached an answer. I keep asking it periodically and trying to determine if it, what people have to say about it. I don't feel like I've gotten. Most people just say they see themselves more at the end of a line, but I think a lot of people see themselves partially as both, maybe, and it may not be a very definitive answer. It's one that I'm still sort of testing out. I don't always remember to ask it. I tend to believe anxiety is NI not knowing to expect in the future and probably powerless to affect change. Well, that's how anxiety displays in Rachel.
Yeah.
She's anxious when she doesn't know about whether or not we're going to be invited to this wedding. She doesn't find her efforts to find out to be particularly effective. In other words, asking questions doesn't get really the answers that she's looking to get that are, in terms of clarity. She gets kind of vague answers and stuff.
Like, wear whatever you want. Like, no, this is a wedding and it's semi-formal, which also means, like, you kind of have to get dressed up for it. So.
And I think in this instance, it was like she kept experiencing a bit of cognitive dissonance because she was waiting for NI to kick in and tell her, this is the dress you should wear. However, she didn't have the pieces of data she needed for her to feed into her NI to work on, right?
Oh.
And so she just kept trying to get the NI to go and then remembering once again, oh, I'm stuck. I can't NI because I don't have the data. And eventually, we had a video conference where it was on Mother's Day. I think I didn't even think about it at the time. It was on Mother's Day, and I scolded her mom basically for not getting an answer for us because we have to make plans for fuck's sake, you know?
Yeah, and then finally, like, we got some, and we're invited to the wedding, so. And I know that the bridesmaids are wearing black, so I avoided a black dress, and I just went on, I was like, you know what, I've gained weight. I wonder if a good site to go on to was Torrid, and I did. I found a dress on Torrid, and I love it, and it goes with my shoes and bag, and I'm happy. So, it's, taken a load off of my mind.
What's more torrid, girl? Your dress or you when you're on Fuego?
Oh my god.
These are the kind of important questions I ask Rachel on a daily basis to make sure she's keeping up with all her girlish fashion things.
It's true.
I think I'm ISXJ or ISXP, and I can't have never-ending thoughts unless I visualize them, but I don't see the point of having unending thoughts, though, unless it's for something useful or anxiety. If you were to say, if there were a test, and next to it was a question that said, this paragraph of text is an example of A, B, C, D, and C was in any polar, I would say that one probably shouldn't be marked wrong, regardless of what the other possible answers were. See what I'm saying? So it could very well be what you just said there is indicative of any polar, which would make you ISFP or ISTP. But I don't understand how you visualize thoughts, really. Is TE thinking or efficiency? TE is solvency. It's moving from state A to state B in actual reality. Like getting the carpets clean and getting everything actually moved back inside is completing the task, is the SE. But extroverted thinking. Okay, so here's a good example of extroverted thinking at play. My dad wanted the carpets cleaned in the master bedroom because my mom had lived there prior to us. It wasn't necessarily super, like, clean. And then it had gotten even worse since we lived there, just sort of trampling dirt in and stuff. Wanted to get the carpets cleaned. And so I said, listen, I'll just rent one of those rug doctors from the supermarket. And I did, and it was a, what are the two words I'm looking for? Miserable failure across the board. So, the thing is, I was going to go get another one or rent a different machine or figure out something else. I was looking at it, I was trying scrubbing at the carpet with various brushes, yada, yada, yada. Using a shop vac that wasn't very strong. And my dad, who's a TE Dom, says, it's not worth the work. It's just not worth it. Why are you doing this? And of course, he was right. I called the carpet cleaning people, and it took them maybe 20 minutes, and they had just, it's really so clean compared to what
Yeah, it really looks
anything
great.
like we accomplished, Well, that's all you're gonna get here is a lot of comfortable neutrality. It's nice and safe. It's the Switzerland of YouTube channels. We are here. We're neutral, and we don't want any more bears.
Yeah.
I was glad to see you show up in the Gen X Steel stream yesterday, Introverted Thinker.
Yeah.
Thank you for making an appearance there. My mother has 0 TE, a lot of SI, and a lot of FE, and a little NI put in there. Does that make her ESFJ? That makes her ISFJ, Heidi Song. If she had 0 NI and a little NE, she had 0 NI and a little TE, and a fair amount of TE, then she'd be an ESFJ. ESFJ TE is pretty visible, especially if it's flavored in the flavor of helpfulness. Like if you're a slacker intuitive who like this is hard, you probably want an ESFJ spouse for a while. The TE can be quite substantial. Oh, well, most ISFJs have distinctly extroverted periods of time when they're engaging with other people. They're using extroverted feeling, but they ultimately are introverts and need to retreat and retire after doing the FE mambo all day. To co-opt and adopt, as they say, Zennial's term dance there.
Can you ask, he asked me a question before, but I didn't understand it. Could you ask the Gen Zennial, what he was referring to, what the question was referring to?
It's way up there. It's way.
Gen Zennial, do you ask Rachel a question? If so, could you repeat it? If not, could you beat it, beat it, beat it, beat it, beat it? Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Just beat it, beat it, beat it, just beat it. Beat it, beat it. I'm not Dave, I'm Shannon, I said. I am Shannon, I said. Wow, I'm surprised. Are you serious? Nobody believes that's Shannon. Really? Are you sure? Sounds just like her. Objective personality. You're not Shannon or Dave. You're an entirely unrelated person named Dan and Shave. Dan and Shave. Normally known as Dave and Shan, but your name is Dan and Shave. That's how you became so obsessed with them. You said, how could they be Shan and Dave when I'm Dan and Shave?
I just realized how great a president you would be and how great a first wife I would be.
At least this great.
Right? Yeah, because I like watching you at this position.
That's a lot of great right there. Look how much great you can fit between these hands. You can fit a whole street greats worth of great.
And then Delilah can become first female president. This is, because it usually goes by successors.
Broccoli Todd, the most famous ENTP in history is my scrote on your face.
Oh!
Ooh, you got burned. You got scrote burned. It's hard to get scrote burned because I got a very cool scrote. It's a cool, soothing scrote. What's with the numbers? They're things we use instead of letters when we're trying to represent quantities instead of meanings. Oh, that's a math thing. Don't bother with them. You only need to know one set of symbols. You're Shannon Renee? Shannon Renee, the ENTJ. Yeah. That I am Shannon Renee, the ENTJ. Dave and Shannon, don't you say? Depends on how needy the INFJ is. What's that in response to? Let's see.
Do you know who I am?
Who, me?
No, I'm like, because I would only want a perspective of someone who, like, has known me in the past if I've been needy or not. But, like, honestly, can I just say, like, I think that past people that I dated wanted me to be more difficult. They thought I was, like, too, like, easygoing.
Heidi says, I have a question for INFJs. I have a lot of INFJ friends, and if you aren't always catering to them, they no longer want to be around you as much. Is this normal INFJ behavior? Is it unhealthy? Well, I think...
That's a fact.
I think that INFJs, they... you know, they're misrepresented often as these giving, altruistic, kind people or something, but that's not really how they are, really. So, but it's not that you have to cater to them. That's a bad word. It's not that you have to cater to them. It's just
No.
it's just that you've got to be as effy intuitive as they are.
Yes, that's where my one of my best friends growing up she's an ESFJ, and she brought me out a lot, and it was really good because it brought my FE out a lot. But as I got older, I realized I can only FE so much, and then it would be like I get snippy and stuff.
In general, TI is how INFJs play defense in one of a couple of different possible ways. They either play defense by qualifying their statements, like Corey does, or they play defense by making sure that whatever it is they're going to articulate has parsed out against TI scrutiny all the way.
Yeah.
Somebody like Sam Harris is the ultimate version of the double down on TI response to that. Because you can be certain about TI. It's, you can get somebody like Sam Harris as an INFJ who obviously validates everything against his TI very carefully. And you can see he's not TI 1 or 2 by how slow he talks.
Yeah, I'm a slow talker.
But if you read his stuff, it all validates great, Jumper. Look.
Hey, someone call me a jumper.
No, Sam Harris. Sam Harris is known as a jumper, but it's only because he loves those bouncy castles.
I thought you meant like jumper as in like I jumped off screen.
No, they mean like the silly OPS jumpers.
Oh.
Like, that's just an ISFJ jumper who looks like an ENTP that looks like an ESFP.
Gosh, no.
One of our 512 subtypes.
Jargon.
If you establish a pattern of behavior and then stop that pattern of behavior, an INFJ will question that and may distance themselves. Most likely it is not you have to cater to them. I don't think Jordan Peterson's an INFJ, no. I think he's very clearly TE. Well, the thing is, with Rachel, you see TI a lot as a third slot selfish value, and you see it playing a role in her defense of self. She defends herself by insisting that things be fair on some way that others can't deny as an articulable ground of fairness. So, people's circumstances and individual differences, differences between individuals within a type, uh, they allow for some variance regarding how a given function manifests. As I was saying, Corey came over earlier, and he and Rachel talked some together about occult mysticism kind of stuff, that like tarot cards and stuff like that. Corey's into that shit too, and yet they take different approaches towards uh, defending it, which is to say, Corey is sort of proactively distancing himself from making any firm claims about it, and just sort of discussing it as an area of interest. Rachel's generally positioning herself as somebody who's open to learn things about it still, even though she knows plenty, she'll play the role of learner anyway.
You totally fucking just described like LCD sound system. Like, put them in the middle of like Corey and I, and that's like where we are. Like,
it was kind of nuts watching the two of them talk, because they have a lot like in common, we started talking about LCD sound system. They both know a lot about it. Corey, I think because of Rachel's FE positioning himself as in the learner position habitually, presumed that he probably knew more than her about it, and kind of pontificated about it a little bit. Which, nevertheless, I think we did learn about things we didn't know before.
We did. I did not know that they stole like tunes. Basically, they stole melodies. A lot of people, they get like Vanilla Ice got caught for doon 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 instead of doon 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 doon. Like, there's an extra like beat in Vanilla Ice's than in Queen and Under Pressure. So, LCD Sound System straight up told magazines like, yeah, like we heard melodies and we took them from these songs. And I was like, oh no, that fucking sucks. Like, it does suck. Because I've always like looked to them as an original that I can go to, that like I haven't heard much like them. But it doesn't. But what if he heard some of their new stuff? I think he would really be excited, because their new stuff is so fucking good. Like, I would love to show him. I'll look at his Kabbalah tarot book if he will listen to a new LCD Sound System song.
Boy, I hope this isn't about us. No, probably. No, it's Northeast Pasadena. That's good. Somebody complaining about their neighbor smoking too much weed.
I worry about that too.
I mean, it's like, it's only really stinky when you smoke a joint. If we're just smoking bong rips, it's not a big deal. For those of you who weren't here last night, I want to make sure you're aware of this important reality. Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys fame, he did us all the world a favor by celebrating the virtues of Shortening Bread, the song, declaring it the greatest song ever written, and recording multiple unreleased versions of it.
Oh my god, he's an INFJ that I am embarrassed of.
Mama like shortening, Mama like shortening bread. That song. What sort of cheese could I leave? And thank you for answering. Also, may I add, she isn't exactly caring much. To be honest, I would actually describe her as a little cold, but things like criticism, no. I wish I knew contextually what that was all about. Fix facts.
I'd say I'm lukewarm. I'm lukewarm, okay? I am not cold. I am lukewarm. I really am.
Hi, Winston's mom.
Oh, Winston's mom's here?
You heard the Beach Boys used occultism to make their songs catchy? Well, I will say this, Seal Ripper. Brian Wilson was quoted as saying he needs his demons to come up with songs. Interestingly. Because he's just like a woman to me. I see. I got a text from somebody. Some fella named Peter Dentici. Don't you know? Don't you know? You got some fella named Peter Dentici here, don't you know?
Can someone in the chat let us know what the Islanders score is right now?
Oh yeah, I want to watch that Islanders game.
Yeah.
No, I want. If it's not over yet, I want to watch it.
You want to watch it? Okay.
Yeah, I want to watch the third quarter.
I'm scared. I'm so nervous. They won the 2 games we didn't watch. I'm so nervous. You guys.
Well, let me check the score. Look, if it's currently like 9-1 in favor of the Lightning, then we don't even need to bother.
Okay.
So let's see what the score is. See how much time there's left.
Okay.
If it is going into the third period and it's
So
tied or something,
nervous.
then I'm gonna have to end the stream because I want to see this Islanders
Okay,
game.
cool.
Personally, I really enjoyed watching the Islanders games together.
I do too.
A whole new world. That's what I find in my hockey playoffs. Ooh, look. Tampa Bay's up at the end of the second period. Going into the third period. So we gotta watch it. We got it. We gotta watch this hockey game.
I can't even argue.
Because here's the thing. I know this stream is fun. I'm really enjoying it. I saw I've got a good number of people here too, and I regret that that I'm not going a little bit longer. But you know what? It went better part of 2 hours, which is pretty good length stream. And I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for being here. I do have a merch store if you wanna buy some stuff. So talking with some people on it. And also, what are the things you're supposed to tell people to do? Subscribe, like my videos. Throw roses before me as I walk down the sidewalk, and other important things, okay? If you're not doing that, then feel free to attend to other business as you see fit.
Bye everyone. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.
Rachel and I love you. We'll see you later.
Yeah, we do.
I'm going to go over here to the stop
I'm
stream.
so nervous.
End
I
stream.
don't have to be nervous because they're up.
They're the New York Long Islanders. You can trust your Long Island team.